Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning. How are y'all doing today? I wanted to go live. This is a last minute, impromptu live. Hopefully, I can start to do this on a regular basis. I'm thinking Monday through Thursday, around this time, 10 a.m. Good morning. I actually want to start off with a quick little prayer, and then I want to talk to you guys. For those of you guys who are joining me today and you feel like you keep running into the same issue in your life, and specifically you're having a lot of micro issues that are leading to macro level effects in your life and outcomes, negativity. You're just kind of like on a you're just kind of like on a bad string of luck right now, and you feel like everything is just doom and gloom. Like, why is the same things happening to you? I want to talk to you guys about it because I just had a conversation with somebody and it really triggered a lot of thoughts, and I was just like, let me share this with you guys. But we're going to open up in prayer. Good morning for those of you guys who are here. Hey sissy, I don't know if you're going to stay, but what up? Okay, so let's get started. Good morning, Heavenly Father. Thank you for waking us up and blessing us with another beautiful day of life worth living. Thank you so much, Father, for giving us eyes to see, ears to hear, for giving us a voice to speak, for giving us, functionality of whatever limbs and whatever organs that are functioning well. We have to focus on the positive, Father. I thank you for giving us the ability to choose you, the ability to choose life, the ability to choose love in the midst of danger, in the midst of chaos, in the midst of pain, in the midst of everything that may be going wrong in our life. Father, you always give us a choice to look toward the light. And if that's all we had was a choice, we would still be blessed beyond measure. There are so many people whose choices have been taken away from them. People who are in chains today. People who have been raped and pillaged and stolen away from their families. Father, there have been people in history who never even had a day of their life with as many choices as we get to experience in a 5-minute moment, Father. So the very fact that we exist in today's time, I know that we're going through our own issues, Father. I know that things are not always going to work out for us. They don't always feel good to us, Father, but I'm fully aware, Father, that we still have a choice. And for that alone, I just thank you. I give you all of the praise and all of the glory, Father. I thank you for every friend that is joining me today, for every ear that can hear, for every heart that will be touched, Father. I thank you for every opportunity that I have to speak into the lives of people, and for every opportunity I have for them to speak back to me, Father, sharing your love, sharing your word, sharing your grace, Father. I thank you so much, Father, and in Jesus' name that we pray, amen. I don't want to pray for too long because y'all, I could pray for like 100 minutes, honestly. I could fall asleep. I could write a book. How y'all doing today, though? For those of you guys who are joining me, say what's up. So today I just wanted to get a couple things off my chest. Usually I like to upload reels, but I feel like this might take a little longer. And plus, I love having dialogue with y'all. So I know somebody who's going through a real rough moment in life right now. They have a really important choice to make, kind of like a life or death choice to make. And there's a lot of life or death. That's the biggest choice anybody can make. And there's a lot of this person's past experiences that are weighing in on this choice, right? And I find that I don't want to focus too much on them. It's not my story to tell, but I find that it's a very common thing that we are faced with all the time. Myself, I struggle with stress, anxiety, depression. It's a regular thing in my life. And thank God that I have God, right? So, when I'm talking to this person, I'm mentioning to them, call on God, just, keep your connection strong. God will not lead you astray regardless. And one of the things to think about is there's a lot of people out here who do not believe in God, and sometimes some of us, we do believe, but our relationship is just not there. Or we do believe, but we don't really trust God that much because how many times we feel that God has failed us in the past. Specifically those of us that have experienced great losses. Some of us have experienced losing jobs that provided for our families. How could you be a God that provides for us when you allowed me to lose my job? You can lose a life, of a very important person to you. We go through it every day. Life goes on. This is life. We lose our health. We lose our sanity. We lose our happiness, our joy. How can God be the God that he says he is, or that people say he is? Kind of I believe, but I'm not really trusting God that much. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to speak to that because that's a very real, legitimate thing to feel, and I fully understand. But the way that I tend to look at it, because I see that God, I wouldn't have life if God didn't create me to begin with, right? And yes, life may have been rough for me for a long time, but at the end of the day, the happy moments and the good moments have far overshadowed the bad moments for me. That's what I'll say for me. What I started to do at a very young age, and what I try to always keep doing, is to focus on the light, focus on the positive. And I find that for a lot of people, maybe you don't have somebody in your life to tell you how important it is for your mindset to shift in order for you to have a better outcome. A lot of us were experiencing the same things over and over and over, and we don't realize how much we're attracting them into our lives. And I'm not victim shaming. I was talking to a friend the other day. He explained to me that there's a concept called victim shaming, and I never want to come across as victim shaming. If something horrible has happened to you, that is legitimate. It is worth identifying, addressing, feeling. That was one of the things that I started to do very young. I started to realize that when I didn't feel my pain, but instead I tried to fight through my pain, I ended up with worse outcomes in life. So I made a conscious decision when I was a teenager that I'm going to feel my pain. When something hurts me, I'm going to take a moment to experience it. Because in experiencing it, I get to know it in and out. I get to know all of the truths that exist within that pain. I get to recognize the triggers that lead to that pain, the people that are causing that pain. I get to recognize everything about it so that I know how to protect myself from it in the future. I know how to strengthen up and wisen up so that it cannot control me. At the end of the day, the main thing that I'm trying to help people with in this relationship content that I'm making and everything that I'm talking to people about in life, the main thing that I'm trying to help us to equip ourselves with is the power to, I don't want to say control, the power to control what we do, what we can control in all of our life experiences, in our relationships. You can't control what somebody else does to you, but you can control what you do as a response. You can't control if someone else is trying to hurt you or trying to disregard you, but you can control how you respond to that situation. And when you control and you don't allow them to confuse you, you don't allow them to make you feel so bad that you don't feel worthy of making a better choice for yourself. When you realize that if I choose to be positive, even in the midst of their negativity, it makes it sorry, I have like a tick or something. It makes it a little easier for you to be clear when you're dealing with someone who's actually worthy of your grace with them, your patience and your submission to them, or you're dealing with somebody who's absolutely unworthy. See, because when you're an asshole in return to someone being an asshole to you, then it's hard for you to really recognize who's wrong. Because you realize all the fault that you have, right? You're a reasonable person. You can recognize when you messed up. But imagine you stop messing up. Imagine you just, you're on a good foot. You're doing the right thing. And they're still treating you badly. It makes it a lot easier to recognize. So going back to the relationship with God. When you choose to walk in the light, this person that is making a life or death decision right now, it's hard for them to make that decision because they don't really know what the outcome is going to be on the other side. Whereas me, I'm looking at their situation and I'm like, if you keep God first in the midst of all this, regardless of what you choose, God is going to give you an opportunity to walk toward the light. Let me break that down, what that looks like. Because a lot of us are like, I don't know, what's the point? What's the point of serving God if life is still happening and it's negative? Well, because you get the best outcomes even in the midst of all the negativity. So you lose, you lose somebody in your family, right? And you're like, I don't know how much I can trust God, because why would he take my brother away from me? Why would he take my unborn child away from me? Why would he take my mother away from me when he knows that's all I had? Well, when you choose to look at God instead of look at the light instead of looking at the dark, God may lead you into a new relationship that is going to reinstate the same values and the same benefits that you got from that relationship. Something you can't even fathom. It happens all the time. One person dies and next thing you know, you've rekindled something with someone who you hadn't spoken to in 10 years. Or one person, passes away and now you have free time to make a new friendship, make a new relationship that brings something new in your life. And guess what? Your life will never be the same after, having lost that person. Don't get me wrong. But imagine you choose instead to look toward darkness. Now you're sitting in the room, you're depressed, you're stressed. It happens. I know so many people's intimate stories. I know so many people that have gone through so many dark ruts and have stayed there longer than they necessarily had to because their mind was focused on darkness. Now you're becoming overweight. Now your health is in jeopardy. Now you're struggling with your mental health a lot worse. Now you can't see anything positive, so you're bringing about more negativity onto your life and more pain, and that pain is lasting. Have you ever had a really stressful, depressing week and then the next week something good happens and you're just like, dang, that is such a relief. Like, imagine if you could walk towards your relief quicker. So even if you're not thinking about heaven or hell, or whether heaven or hell exist, and why you should serve God so that you can get into heaven instead of, just think about the life that you're still living here, unless you're going to kill yourself, which a lot of people don't really want to do, nor have the courage to do, nor should you do it, right? So I think about that all the time when I go through my stress, depression, and my anxiety. I'm just like, at the end of the day, I can end it all. Like, I don't have to be here and go through this. And then I think, well, what if I just do God's work today? What if I don't try to figure my life out? Because when you're disillusioned, it's hard to see positive. It's hard to really think positive. It's hard to really think anything good could come out of this horrible situation. But what if in the moment I'm like, you know what, I'm going to walk toward the light in this moment. What does that look like? Oh, my friend called me and said she needed help unloading her stuff, from, I don't know, she just moved in. She needed help unpacking. She asked me a couple of days ago. I kind of ignored her call because I wasn't in a good space. Let me just hit her up and just go help her. Do something positive. You know what? The neighbor told me when I had a free time, let me go hang out with her. Something positive, right? Go brush your teeth, take a shower, something. Oftentimes I find when I make the small decision to do something walking toward the light, I'm able to, my world becomes more illuminated. And so I wanted to talk about it because specifically, if you guys know about the book of Job, by the way, okay, I feel I keep finding dark people. Ooh, let me talk about that. Come on, sis. Yes. Let me talk about that, Raw Star. By the way, welcome. I ain't heard from you in a minute. Thank you for being here. I don't want to say anything that's going to make anybody feel personally attacked, but I live a life of accountability, so I say this kind of stuff to myself before I say it to anybody else. If you find that you keep running into dark people, ask yourself how much light exists in you. Because that's a real thing. And I think that's one of the hardest things to conquer, which is why I empathize with everybody going through it. It's hard to become the light when you're surrounded by darkness. It is so hard. But if you are constantly running into the same person in your life, I promise there's something that you're doing to contribute to that. I promise. I've seen it happen. I've experienced it. I've had to make intentional choices to be different myself in order to attract. And let me tell you why. Because when you're someone, let me say, I am now someone who considers myself to be a pretty positive person, despite the fact that I do struggle with stress and depression a lot. Pretty positive person. I intentionally choose to avoid people and energies that are going to bring out negativity in me. So, that being said, if I see someone else, maybe they don't intend to be dark. Maybe they don't intend to be negative. But because they're surrounded by darkness and everybody in their life is dark and negative and all that stuff, they tend to emulate those same qualities. Maybe they don't even know it. But regardless, I know it. I feel their energy when I go around them. So I'm intentionally steering clear of that person. I may love them, but I'm like, I'm not going to go hang out with them because the energy is going to rub off on me and then I'm going to have outcomes I don't want. So the reason why this matters to you is because you may be, because you're surrounded, but because you keep running into people that are dark, and you may not have intentionally made the choice within yourself to walk toward the light, to be the light in the midst of the darkness, and to do, you now are turning off the people that would bring light into your life. And so in order for you to get close to those people, they're only going to want to be close to you if they know that you're bringing the light. They're only going to want to be close to you if they know that you are bringing positivity. And I'm not saying they won't speak to you, because we're not supposed to do that as children of God. We're not supposed to just turn our noses up at people who need us. But it's very difficult for us because we're not Jesus. We may be trying to be like Jesus, but we're not Jesus. We're not God. So it is very difficult. A lot of us, we have to put on a whole cape. We have to put on a whole suit of armor before we walk into a place of darkness. So it's not easy for us to be like, I'm gonna go hang out with the prostitutes, the thugs, the drug dealers, and all of the people that are doing all of this dark stuff, and so that I can take the light. That's what Jesus did, and that's what we want to do, and that's what we should be trying to do. But it's hard for us. It's easier for us to be like, you know what? I got to get myself together. I'm going to steer clear of as much negativity as I possibly can so that I can keep my mind right, so I can best serve God. And then when we have on that full suit of that full armor of protection, then our uncle calls us with, on some BS, we can say, you know what? consciously, I'm going to choose to give him an ear today. I'm going to give him some time today. But because that uncle is surrounded by negativity, and that uncle is constantly keeping negative and dark people around him in his circle, he's spewing so much negativity our way that now we're drained at the end of the conversation. So what you can do, if you're finding that you're constantly running into the same type of dark people, you can make the conscious choice to withdraw. That might be the first step. Withdraw. I don't have time for you today. I love you, but I need to protect my peace. I'm going to withdraw today. And you know what? That person who I think is boring but seems to always be happy, maybe I'm going to go hang out with them. That person who doesn't really seem to have the most flattering life and the most exciting life, because a lot of times that's what it is. Like we're attracted to familiarity. So whatever it is, these dark people are, you're saying you keep attracting this darkness. There's something about it that's attractive to you. Why do you keep going around it? Why do you keep accepting it? Why are they coming into your life? Like what? Give me an example. As a matter of fact, hopefully you'll respond. I'm gonna look at the responses right now, but maybe there's something that is like, captivating about the situation, and so you keep walking toward it. And I find personally that before I started to be this person, I'm telling you, I used to look at people who's in church every Sunday. I'd be like, do you, boo boo? God is good. But I can't ever see myself being that person in church every Sunday and then going to church events. That just seems like such a boring life. Like, man, I know that I probably should do the right thing and only date one guy, but it seems like it would be so much more fun to date multiple dudes at one time, or have sex, when I feel like it. And I know if I give my life to God today, then I'm going to start feeling guilty every time I have sex with somebody that I know I probably shouldn't be. All that stuff. So darkness is exciting, but then when you sitting up and you stressed and you depressed and you feel like killing yourself, and you start asking yourself, was it worth it? That's what I'm saying. Like, how can we walk toward the light, just a little bit more toward the light today, so we can stop attracting so much darkness? So let me read y'all comments. I am made in his image. Okay, let me go back up. Yeah. Keep finding dark people. Wow, facts, say that again. I do too, miss. I'm made in his image. Thank you guys for joining that part. Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the book of Job. So, like, if you don't believe in the Bible, then I always tell people, like, I love you and stuff. But, like, if you don't believe in the Bible, a lot of the things that I have to say aren't going to connect with you, because I get my wisdom from the Word of God. It works for me. It's not just about it working. I'm convicted. So I truly believe that God created this world. I truly believe that I didn't create this world. And I truly believe that he sent his son, and that if God is capable of creating all of this miraculous stuff that we get to experience every day without creating it ourselves, maybe that same God is capable of sending himself down in spirit to embody flesh, allowing that person to be crucified, and then raising that person from the dead. Maybe that God who could create earth, space, everything around it, maybe that God is capable, and because I believe that God is capable of raising his son from the dead, then it is possible for me to believe in life after this place. It's possible for me to believe in heaven. If you don't believe that, or if you've studied a different doctrine that goes against that, it's gonna be hard for you to listen to anything I have to say. But I do want to encourage you to walk toward the light, even if you ain't walking toward God yet. The God that I serve, the God that I believe, walk toward light. So I want to talk to you guys about the book of Job, because anybody who's read the Bible, that the story of Job was a prosperous man. Job had a good life. And there was a moment where Satan decided to infiltrate the system surrounding Job's life. And God encountered that situation and was like, hey, let me actually break this down. Satan has the belief, which is proving to be true in my opinion. Satan has the belief that, like, yo, God, you created all these people and you swear that these children love you, they respect you, they adore you, they live for you. But let me tell you, if I take away their money, if I take away their joy, if I take away their health, if I take away their crib, everything, they're not going to serve you the same. They're not really going to trust you. They're doing all this because everything in their life is good. So because that is Satan's belief system, God encounters Satan and he tells him, like, hey, have you seen my son Job? My son Job, who I've given everything to. I believe that my son Job is so devoted to me that even if you take all that away from him, he still will not curse me. And so God allowed Satan to go and test this person, Job. And he tested him by putting him through everything. And in the midst, it's a very long book, and there's a lot to read. There's a lot of resentment that this person experiences toward God, a lot of questions, a lot of doubts and everything. But the one thing that Job didn't do in the midst of losing everything was curse God. And basically how I received that is the one thing he didn't do was completely turn away from God and shut his ear off to God and say, I'm no longer yours. So, but what Satan had the freedom to do was everything except take Job's life. And that's important to point out, because a lot of times we forget that Satan can test us. Satan can send all the dark people in our circle that he knows we're going to be attracted to. Satan can tempt us by surrounding us by all the things that he knows that we're going to be drawn to, that will feel good in the moment but will take away from us down the line. He can do all that, but what he can't do is take our life. When someone dies, God did that. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that and accept that, but God did that. God is the giver and the taker of life. Nobody can exist on this earth without God creating that person. So when God took my baby in my womb, I had to accept that I was not the one who ultimately created that child. God did. God gave purpose to that child. That child had a purpose to come into my life for 2 months and then to die. And it's a sad reality to accept. But the devil cannot do that. The devil may contribute to everything surrounding that. The devil wants to influence us to see all of the negativity in the loss of life, so that we turn our heads from God and we no longer serve God. And so we're no longer going to experience anything else positive. And ultimately, in the end, we won't reside in heaven. That's what Satan wants to do. But Satan cannot take life. So Job, he had to go through it all. He had to lose friends, family members. He had to lose his own health. He had to lose his own wealth. He had to lose his own joy, his own happiness. And all Satan wanted him to do was curse God, turn away, and leave God. And the one thing that Job did not do was that. And so as a result, God restored everything to Job tenfold. And when I hear that, the first thing I thought, I don't know if y'all are like me, I'm like, yeah, but if you kill people off, like, I don't care what you say. You kill my husband, I don't care if I get remarried. That there's nobody that's going to be my husband again. But somehow, some way, I've experienced in life, it's weird. It's so weird. But I've experienced losses that I never thought would be able to be reinstated. And somehow, some way, God reinstated the joy in me that I got from those things. And I think that is the purpose that I'm trying to, really get people to see, that if you focus on the light, light is light. It may show up in different forms, but at the end of the day, there's light and there's dark. Maybe you'll never get your mom back. Maybe you'll never get your child back. Maybe you'll never get that same job back. But the joy that is within you can be reinstated if you focus on the light. And it's the same thing with darkness. So let me look at y'all comments real quick. Thank you to everybody who's here. Thank you. What up? I feel that a lot of people who know my good nature but take advantage of those things. But my grandmother taught me to be accepting to everyone. I run charity, helping kids, and I run a school even. People there sometimes drain my light. So again, because I don't want to victim shame, I feel like there's a lot of value in what you're saying. But I do want to encourage you, especially you, because you and I, we've been connected for probably you've been like my longest running supporter since I started to come on social media talking to people, literally like over 10 years. And I know that you've gone through so much with your life and with your health. And I don't know you personally, but I do know that you've been through some things. And I just want to encourage you. You still always possess the power to accept or deny a person's presence and influence more than anything. You may not always control a person's presence in your life, but you can control their influence in your life by setting yourself up for success, by influencing yourself first. That's why reading, making a choice on what we read, what we listen to, what we believe in, that is our personal choice. And so literally, I found that the same event can happen to two different people, and their perception of that event can be two completely opposites. And so the outcomes that they experience from that event will be completely night and day difference. Let me give you an example. I grew up, and the first part of my life was, an unstable home, a child of the system of welfare, sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse. I had love in my life. I had light in my life, but I also had a lot of darkness. And I know people who went through exact same experience as me and chose to focus on the darkness. And now their outcomes in their life, they're struggling with addictions. They're struggling with sin. And what I mean by that is they're doing things that they don't believe in their heart they should be doing. And as a result, they're under condemnation of sin because they have not been freed by God Whereas me, I see all of the negative things that happen to me, the things that people have done to me to try and steal my joy, the things that people have done to me that still to this day try to do to me to hurt me. And instead, I see it as an opportunity to either to learn a lesson, you know what I'm saying, that I can overcome. I see it as an opportunity to grow from. When I was a teenager and, you know, my mom relapsed on drugs, I could have seen that as an opportunity to throw the towel in and just be like, you know, like, this life ain't about nothing. It's nothing but negativity. Let me just go and do some shit to feel good. I could have chose to, you know, smoke the wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? I could have chose to do the things that a lot of my peers were doing to cope with their hurt and their pain in that moment. And some of those peers now are living the outcome of those bad decisions that were made. It's a lot of times it's in the small decisions. That's why I say look toward the light in the moment. You ain't got to make this radical transition of your life overnight. You can literally be like, what can I do to look toward the light and away from the darkness in this moment so that I can walk toward being saved versus walking toward being consumed. Those are the decisions that I made. People look at my life today and will never know what I've been through, ever. They judge me, they misjudge me all the time. And I think that that's okay because God says that we can be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So if you can't recognize me for who I used to be, that means that God's work is taking shape in my life. But I encourage you to create a vision for your life. What would your life look like if people weren't taking advantage of you? What would you feel like if everything was going, you know, according to your plan? Focus on those thoughts and get excited about that, because then it makes it easier to make the decision in the moment. Like, you know what? I envision a life of freedom where I can go into this space and I can help these kids and I can do this charitable work and it will be appreciated. I envision that. You know what's going to begin to happen? When you imagine yourself being that person who's experiencing life on your terms the way that you want to, you get a good idea of what that person looks like. You can see it so clear sometimes. Like, you can imagine what you're driving, how you're leaning to the left instead of leaning to the right, how you're sitting up more straight. You can imagine all that stuff. What begins to happen is you begin to then recognize what a person who's having that outcome looks like. And so then you begin to draw more near to that person. Like me, I imagine myself being financially free, being wealthy beyond, being wealthy beyond measure, to the point where I can bless so-and-so. When my mom's car breaks down, I don't have to worry about how to help her come up with $1,000 to fix it, because I can just say, Mom, it's a new car sitting in your driveway. And when I imagine that, I start to imagine, well, what would a woman like that, who has the power to do something like that, what would she walk like? What would she talk like? What would she conduct? How would she conduct herself? How does it feel to wake up every day to be that woman? And when I'm really real with myself, a lot of times it's so different than my everyday personality, but I can see it. Then when I see people in my neighborhood that look like it, I'm more drawn to them. I'm like, yo, like, she said hi to me. Let me say hi back today. Now I'm beginning to connect with and attract completely different types of people into my life. I don't even have time for the people that are bringing me darkness. You're at that function, that charity event. You'd be surprised how many people you don't even engage with, because you're so mentally entrapped by the people who are like bearing down on you and who are taking your joy. You're so caught up with them mentally and spiritually, emotionally, that you're attracting them back into your space. But when you're like mentally, like, you can fathom, you may not be able to fathom, but you can imagine being a completely different person, walking different, talking different, engaging with different types of people. Then now when those people show up in your life, when those opportunities show up, now you walk toward them. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not to victim shame, because we all have definitely been victimized by somebody else, but we don't ever have to stay in that victim state when we choose to walk toward the light, because there's always some sort of light. That's why the sun rises every day. And that, literally, when I see the sun shining every day, it's a constant reminder to me that even when I'm like, you ever had a night where you're like, man, tonight is so hard, I'm so sad, like your depression is so much worse, or you're so scared, you're at home alone. When you're at home alone and it's dark and it's night and it's quiet and everybody's asleep, that invaders have a better chance at coming through, and you might be living a life of paranoia. You're like, oh, I've been robbed before, I've been broken, my home's been broken into before, and I know it's more likely to happen at night when you're alone. And then when the morning comes and you're just like, oh my gosh, I feel so much safer. That's how I think, like, when I see the sun. I'm like, The fact that the sun rises every single day reminds me that no matter how much darkness I encounter, there's always light somewhere. And the fact that it happens different. Do y'all ever think about this? Now I'm on one. Do y'all ever think about like how it's day and night at different times around the world? What that tells me is that somewhere in this world, on a metaphysical level, on a what is the word that I'm looking for? Metaphorical level too. Metaphorically speaking, there's always light somewhere. At every single waking moment of time that exists, the sun is shining somewhere on this earth. And darkness is also somewhere on this earth. And we have to choose to walk toward that light. So let me see what else y'all talking about. After taking the ACE test and how I still am standing, but God's light will always shine. The ACE says I should be dead. What is that? ACE. What is that? What kind of test is that? Tell me, because I don't know what that is. So yeah, for those of you guys who are just joining, I was just on a tangent. I was just talking about how to get through your struggle today. That's the title of this. How to get through your struggle today is to not try to worry about conquering your struggle tomorrow. It's literally looking toward the light in this moment. In this moment. My water is shut off right now because in my complex, and this is not the best example for like somebody who's in a series of, deep sorrow right now, but bear with me. My water is off in my complex today. Today is day 1. I told myself I'm about to be on track. I'm going on a 90-day run right now of just doing shit right. I don't care if I don't feel like it. I don't care what circumstances exist. I don't care. I'm going to do a little bit every day toward the outcome that I'm envisioning right now, right? My water's cut off. One of the things that I was supposed to be doing today is doing some meal prep for my family, as well as, getting some work done. It's hard to function in a home where there's no water. So there have been times where little stuff like this will happen, or I'll be like, forget it. It must not be meant for today. I'm not about to fight against this circumstance that I can't control. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to just throw in the towel for today. And sometimes it's good to do that. Sometimes depending on the space that you're in, it's good to take a day off and, refresh and all that. But sometimes, we'll look at those things that will happen circumstantially to us that are not in our favor, and we'll let them challenge us and turn us off of our goals. And I've learned that, how can you look towards the light? What can you do? So maybe you can't meal prep, but can you go to the store and buy a couple of things? Do you have enough money in your bank account to just go buy a couple things to hold you over that you ain't got to cook? You know what I'm saying? What can you do? What can you do in the moment, when you're not going to have things working out according to your plan? And that's all I wanted to talk about today, because there's a lot of people that are struggling with a lot of things right now. And my heart goes out, and I really be praying for y'all when I remember, because I ain't gonna lie, I don't always remember. But I do really be praying for y'all. And I wish that everybody could just know how much power. It doesn't mean that everything is going to feel good all the time. You guys would be surprised how many days I spend crying my eyeballs out, stressed out, and being dismayed. And it's these little moments. It's this little, I'm going to cry. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel this pain. I'm going to experience it so I can understand it. But I don't feel like fighting today. So I'll be like, well, what can you do in this moment? And in this very moment, I can choose not to go slit my wrist. That may be my positive choice. That may be me walking towards the light. I can choose not to go break something in the house. That's kind of shit that I used to struggle with when I was younger. But I can choose that. That's me choosing light. And sometimes it's in those small little choices of choosing the positive that everything changes. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just wanted to leave y'all with that today. Thank you guys for being here and for adverse childhood experiences. Oh, so is that a test that a person takes, a psychology thing? Like where you're going through therapy? I'm gonna have to look more into that. But anyways, my stomach is screaming at me right now. My fast is ending. It's time for me to eat. Thank you guys for being here. If I can, I'm gonna repost this live for those of you guys who missed it. And hopefully I can do this. I want to do this Monday through Thursday, because I drop my kids off and I usually get home around 10 o'clock, and it's time. I work from home. It's usually time for me to start working. But if I can make my work day start at 11, then I can get on at 10 a.m. and just go live Monday through Thursday and just talk to y'all. I want to start a podcast, but it doesn't look like it's in the cards for me right now, in this very moment. And so this gives me an opportunity to still interact with you guys. So hopefully you guys can join me. God bless you. Love you. See you tomorrow.